And now in this position here, Bobby Fischer decides to capture this pawn on e4 by knight takes e4, giving up this knight. And suppose if white captured this knight by suppose knight takes e4, now comes d5, attacking both pieces. And you can see that in the next move, black will get back his piece. So that's why after knight takes e4, here white goes for queen to e2. But guys, castling might be the better option for white. And after that, here Fischer decides to push d5, attacking this bishop. And suppose if white tries to defend this bishop by going back to suppose on b3, that will be a mistake, because now firstly black will castle, so that he can bring this rook into the game. And for example, if white also decides to castle, thinking that he is now safe, but that's not going to happen. This is because now black will start putting pressure on white position by bringing this bishop to g4 first, pinning this knight. And obviously white cannot capture this knight on e4 due to the threat of knight takes d4, which puts immense pressure over this f3 knight. So for example, if white decides to bring his queen to d3 so that he can get out of this pin, but now comes knight takes d2. Okay, and if knight takes d2, now comes queen to f6, attacking this d4 pawn. And suppose if bishop takes f5, knight takes d4, and you can see this threat. Now you can see that this third rank is not safe for this queen, because if this queen goes anywhere in the third rank, then it will get followed by this knight. For example, if this queen goes there, then simply this, and if this queen goes there, then we can go there. So that's why suppose if after seeing this all, if he goes back to b1, now comes rook at a goes to d8, attacking this bishop. And suppose if bishop to c4, knight to e2 check, bishop takes e2, bishop takes e2, rook to e1, okay, attacking this bishop, but simply rook takes d2. And now clearly you can see this position is completely winning for black. So that's why after the move d5, here white finds the correct move, which is knight takes e4. And now, as you can see, white has the option to either capture this with the pawn or with the queen. But capturing with the pawn might be the better option for white, which he actually does in the game, because it also opens this g file for this rook, which can in future white can easily double his rook. And after that, here Fischer finally captured this bishop on c4. But guys, let me go back. After this move, now you might be shocked that instead of capturing this bishop, it's better for black to capture this knight. But why? I mean, now white can capture this pawn back, and by this you can see white successfully improves his pawn structure, and this bishop on c4 is directly eyeing on the black king. But still this position is better for black. This is because now firstly black will capture this pawn on d4 by knight takes d4, attacking this queen. And suppose if queen moves to g4 with the idea of rook to g1 and then queen to g7, but black can easily tackle this by this single move queen to f6, which also targets this pawn on f2. And if white tries to defend this pawn by his rook, now I just want you all to pause the video and just think that what can black play in this position. Yes, you are right, the move which black can play is queen to c6, attacking this bishop. And now the best move for white is to give up this bishop and to just slide this king to b1, getting out from this pin and danger. But suppose if white is not careful and instead he decides to defend his bishop by pushing this pawn, but now comes b5. And now you can see no one can protect this bishop. But let's suppose if white tries to create a threat of mate, but simply we will push g6. And after suppose rook to d1, if he tries to attack our knight, now the best move is to capture this bishop. And after rook takes d4, c takes b3 check, king to d2, queen to c2 check, king to e3, b takes a2. And now clearly you can see this position is completely winning for black due to this passed pawn. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move, as you can see, now Fischer is attacking this queen, but I didn't understand that why white didn't capture this pawn. Maybe he gets afraid to open this file, because by this black can easily place his rook. So that's why he decides to bring his queen to d6. Okay, so now white is threatening to push d7, so that's why to stop this, here Fischer decides to bring back his knight to e5. But guys, queen to f5 might be the better option for black, so that he can pin this knight first of all, and in the next move, white can bring this rook to e8, creating pressure over this queen as well as this knight. And after that, here white brings his rook to e1, and now it's important for black to defend this b7 pawn by this move rook to b8. But instead, here Fischer goes for rook to d7, which is a mistake. And yes, this move blocks this pawn so that it cannot push further, as well as it also targets this queen. But guys, now you might be shocked that instead of defending this queen back in this position, here white can actually sacrifice his queen by rook to d5. This is because suppose after takes, now comes d takes e7, and as you can see the threat. But what if black decides to bring back his knight to c6, which first of all attacks this pawn, as well as it also stops the move rook to d8. And that's a good move. But now comes this another amazing move, knight to d6. And suppose to stop this pawn from promotion, if black sacrificed his knight by knight takes e7, then simply knight takes c8, and black cannot capture either this knight or this rook due to the threat of back rank mate. So black is forced to push this pawn to g6, and after that simply knight takes e7 check, and you can see that it's all over for black. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move rook to d7, here white missed that amazing move, and instead he goes for queen to g5. And now you can see this game again become equal. And now easily you can see the next move of white. So that's why to stop this, here Fischer decides to bring his knight to g6, which stops the move f4. And let me tell you guys, that's not the correct way to continue this game. This is because now black king can easily escape from this threat by king to e6. And now you can see black is asking for rook exchange, which would be better for black. So that's why instead of the move rook to h7, here white must consider this move, which is knight to c3, so that he can start targeting this queen side pawns of black. Okay, so in the actual game, after king to e6, Okay, so instead of g5, it's better for black to give a check by playing knight to g2. This is because suppose if king to f3, knight to e1 check, king to e2, knight to c2, and now you can see these paths are completely open for black pawns, and yeah, this position is completely winning for black. Okay, so in the actual game after g5, but guys, it's better to bring this king to e5 so that he can go there, there and there. And in this position, the final move by Fischer is f3. And here, Mednis resigned. This is because, suppose if game continues like king to g1, now comes knight to d3. Okay, if knight to d1, knight to f4, king to f2, knight to h3 check, and if takes, then black will promote. So suppose if king to e3, and finally g1 equal to queen check. And yeah, that's all. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.